Hello, am I audible? Me?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So, hey guys, good evening. I hope you're all doing fine. This is our first session in Android Study Jams, and we'll be getting started on Kotlin. And at the end of the session, we will be sharing some exciting and interesting news. So, stay till then. And we'll also be sharing a recording of this session and all the relevant resources on our Discord server. And right now we have Amin with us from Spider, and who will be facilitating this session. And I am Keertana, the community lead for Google Developer Student Club NIT Trichy chapter for this term. So yeah, we'll be getting started with the session. Over to you, Amin. I have started recording. You can present your screen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hope I'm audible and visible.
Yeah.
My name is Albin Abdullah Amin, and I'm second year CSE student. Welcome to the first session of Android Study Jam. We'll present my screen. Yep. I hope it's visible.
Yeah, I mean it's visible.
Okay. So the Android Study Jam is the first session, and we will be looking into. I'll explain like why are we here? What are Android Study Jams? Android Study Jams, we are like a group of like-minded people coming together to study and learn app development, a new skill. So, one of the first questions, like when we're going into the tech world, there's a lot of things. There's like web dev you can do, you get into like machine learning, AI. And so why would you want to learn app development? And one of the key reasons is app development. Mobile devices are becoming increasingly commonplace. Mobile apps connect users, and it's very personal to us. Like we are very attached to our phones. We use it all day, every day. And through mobile devices, it has really revolutionized the way we look at tech. So that's one of the key reasons why we would want to make an app and learn app development. And moving on, why and so the question comes like why we want to learn Android. So Android is, and what is Android? Like it's an open source mobile platform, and a lot of users. It's run by developed by Google, and have a lot of people who are using it, and so it's a very popular platform, and it is available across a lot of devices. We are going to focus on Kotlin, and I have seen maybe plus like why Kotlin, like maybe people are familiar with Java, and why not Java, and because and that's a really good question. And the reason behind is Kotlin is a modern language compared to Java. It's recently developed, and it has productivity in mind, and it really wants it focuses on being concise, so expressive and concise. That's one of the benefits of Kotlin. It lets you write safer code, and if you have experienced Java, you might have seen like null pointer exceptions and all of these errors that pop up in Java. But then in Kotlin, all of that is optimized and it's much safer, and it's interoperable. And the interoperable is the word meaning is like lets you share resources and information. And what it does is Kotlin and Java, you can use it. They are completely interoperable, as in you can use Java code in Kotlin, and you can use Kotlin like call functions from Kotlin using Java and all of that stuff. So it really blends into the existing environment, and yeah, that's the benefits of Kotlin. And here you can see like I have written its function in Java, and it defines a class, and it has certain properties and functions. And if you want to write the same code in Kotlin, you just have to write it in one line. So this one line lets you represent all of these things in just one line. So that's why like Kotlin is concise. It's like it's very user friendly and you can learn it pretty quickly. So that's one of the key advantages of Kotlin over Java. And so we will be looking more into Kotlin. So that'll be one of the things, Kotlin languages, what are the basics of Kotlin, how it works. And then we'll be in later on sessions, we'll be moving on to like building apps, and we'll be looking into the like how we can develop apps and how we can do different things. And then we'll be providing resources for you to keep learning further as well. So now I would like to we move on to like we can move on to exploring Kotlin, and we'll move on to the basics. Like since many people here are not very familiar with Kotlin, it's a new language, so we'll be looking at its features and how it works. So have operator. So one of the main things, it's a computer. What it does is it calculates, it computes. That's what a computer is. So we have mathematical operators that allows us to do it. So in Kotlin, we have like addition, subtraction, multiplication, all the basic operators, and we have increment and decrement operators. If you're familiar with C type languages, this will be familiar to you. Plus, plus, minus, minus. What it does is it allows you to increment a value by 1 or decrement a value by 1. And we have comparison operators. These are logical operators that lets you compare two values if it's less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. And we have assignment operator that lets you assign different variables to different things, and we have equality operators. And to demonstrate this further, I'll take you to Kotlin Playground. This is an online is my screen visible? Can you see like
yeah, it's visible.
Okay. Okay, so this is like an IDE for Kotlin, which you can find online. And here you have, this is like the basic main function. And you have, I have different operations done, all the aforementioned operations like addition, division, and greater than, less than, equation, all of this. And if I run this code, we have like 3 plus 4, 7. And we have like division operators. So if you look at this, it's 4 by 2, we get 2, and 4 by 3, we get 1. That's to note. And 4 greater than 3, that's 2, and then 4 less than 3, that's false. And so yeah, this is like the basic main function. And we have print ln, that's like print line, and that's what you use to print stuff in Kotlin. You can also use print. What it does, it also prints, but it doesn't put it in the next line. So we have 7 and then 7 again, and then the next 2 doesn't get to the next line. It's just, it prints along with it. So if we put ln, it goes to the next line. And then here. And so those are the operators, and then we have different types, different data types. So if you want to store integer values like numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we have integers which can have, which again are having different types. Like there are long integers which can store like very huge numbers like -2 to the power of 63. It's and then you have integers which store from a lesser range, like it doesn't let you store very huge numbers, but then a sizable amount like 2 to the power of 31. And you have short, which is basically the range is again further shortened to these set of values. It just has 16 bits, and then you have byte, which is again smaller set. So this you would want to do if you want to store different ranges of values. Have if you want to show decimal values, you have floating point numbers. And so even in that we have like different sizes. So double will have like a lot of, if you want to store very huge floating point numbers over a large range, you would use double, and then you would use float, char, boolean. So char is to store character types. So you have so A, B, C, all the letters, they would come under character type. And boolean is like a special type which stores either true value or false value. And so that's what boolean does. And we have variables. That's a key part of programming. So if you want to store a certain type of data in certain like variables, you have Kotlin lets you do that using var. And if you notice here, it's like var count equals 1 and count equals 2, so it's similar. And if you're familiar with C type programming language, you might have noticed it's the count. We are not declaring a data type here. We're just saying var count equals 1. And the compiler just knows that it just finds out that the data type is integer, and you have count equals 2. And if you are familiar with Python or other programming languages, it's you might be familiar with these type of things. But then the thing is, unlike Python, it doesn't let you change the data types of the variable. So if you start with var count equals 1, so count is now an integer type, and you can't change it to a different type if you would want to stick with integer type. And similarly, there's another keyword called val. Val is to define constants. So if you want to store a constant like pi value, then you wouldn't want to store it in var. You would want to store in val because it doesn't let you change the value. So it's safer that way. And here we can, if you try to change the value, it will give an error saying val cannot be reassigned. So we have specifying variable type. So this is another way to do it. So if you have a var width int, so now width will be an integer, and like I said before, integer variables have a specific type and you cannot change them. So here we are saying width is integer type, and here saying length is double type. So we are explicitly saying what type it is, unlike previous case where it was implicitly done. So yeah. Right, so here I have made a program that lets us demonstrate what I've said about different variables and how it works. So here we have var I equals 3. Here I'm assigning 3 into I, and then if I print I, it will be I can do that. And then we have var C, and there's an issue here because if you see, look at it, like I just said var C, and then the compiler doesn't really know what C is going to be. Like C could be integer, character, float, or any of the other data types. And so that's one of the issues. So if you try and running it, it'll show an error. See, this variable must either have type annotation or be initialized. Here I'm initializing with 3, so the compiler knows, okay, this is integer type. Here, one of the problems is I'm not initializing anything, so it doesn't know what to do with C. So in this condition, if I don't want to initialize, like I did before, I can just explicitly say it's a character type. Compiler can say, okay, C is a character and C is A. That's fine. So we won't get errors for that. And then we have the next I've shown for double. So we have double, and we have f equals 3.14, and this is the double data type. So I'm storing floating point numbers here, and here I'm getting some errors. So here, if I go down here, val pi equals 3.14, and it says val cannot be reassigned. So I tried reassigning val, and it says like you can't reassign. So this is an error. Yeah. At any point, like if you have any doubts, you can unmute and speak, or let me know. Any doubts till now? Okay, yeah. So I have.
Just one
Yes.
second. I mean, we have someone who raised their hand. You can unmute and ask your doubt, Disha.
Sir, I have doubt. Sir, what is the difference between where and well?
Okay. So here we have var f double and f. I've defined f as a double, and I've assigned f as 3.14. Let's say I want to store the value of pi somewhere. And the thing is, I can do that, and then I can, if I run the code, it'll let me change the value of f from 3.14 to 3.5, which is which you wouldn't want because pi is constant, it doesn't change. So when you want to have constants which cannot change throughout the program, so like if you don't want to accidentally change it or keep it constant, then we put val pi equals 3.14. So if I try to change pi here, val cannot be reassigned, the error comes up. So then I can like, so it's basically to help programmers. If they accidentally change it, they don't want to change it, then we can have a constant. So yeah, and so basically var, you can, it's a variable, you can change it. Val, it's a constant, you can't change it once you're assigned it. Does that clear that out?
Yes, sir.
Any other doubts? Unmute and speak. Feel free to unmute and speak. It's
Yeah, so what kind of extension would a Kotlin file have? Like a .ktn or something like that?
yeah. Yeah, so this is like an online environment. You can, I'll show you. Yeah. So if you want to run it like offline, like you can run it like similar to. So this will be like a main.kt here. You see, like this is a. I have an offline IDE for this, and this is I'm running it in like IntelliJ IDE, and here I have like a main function main.kt. So this will be like the extension main.kt file, and yeah. So this is also a way to run it. You can go to, you can, if you want to try these stuff out, you can try it at like Playground, Kotlin Playground, and there you can also like code along with me if you want, or like try out, like play around with the code, like see what works, what doesn't work, stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah. So here, yeah, we have the increment and decrement operators. So if you are familiar with that, it's like here I'm assigning j as 5, and if I print j++, it will get the value of 6. And but then there's two types, j++ and ++j, and yeah. C, so this is one of the errors. This variable must either have type annotation or be initialized. So it's pointing out that I haven't said what variable C is. So that's the error that shows up. So if this error shows up, then you can like see. The compiler doesn't know what type the C is, so that's why it's showing this error. And if I again, yeah. So here 5. J is 5. When I print J++, it prints as 5. When I print J again, it prints as 6. So what J++ does is it prints the value as it is, but then in the next printing, it will increment the value by 1. So here what it does is print here, if I print j, it's 5. If I print j++, it's again 5, but then it gets incremented to 1. So it prints 5 and then j gets the value 6. So when I print it again, it gets the value 6. That's what j++ does. And what ++j does is it immediately prints the value which is greater than 1. So here value was 6. Here j gets the value 7. So 7 gets printed out, and then yeah, so this is it first increments and then prints, and here it prints and then increments. So here j equals 5 gets printed, j gets the value. So if you print it here, j is equal to 6. Then here I'm incrementing first and then printing. So I'll immediately get j equals 7. And similarly for the decrement operator here, if I put the minus minus before this, then it gets immediately decremented to 6. So j becomes 6 and yeah. Can anyone like predict what it's gonna be? J minus minus value of j?
6, 6.
6. Yeah. So j becomes 6, and then if I print j again, it will be
6. I mean,
5.
5.
5.
5.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can test this out. First, j gets printed as 5, which is here, and then again this j++ it prints as 5, and then j because of this j++ it gets the value 6, and then I'm immediately incrementing by 1 and then displaying, so I get the value 7, and then I'm first decrementing and then displaying, so I get the value 6, and then yeah, j minus minus, that will give it value 6 itself. It's not decrementing, it's displaying and then decrement, so value gets 5. Yeah, and this val pi equals 3.14, that's a constant. So if I try changing it, it will give error. If I don't change it, then. So yeah, any doubts regarding this assignment?
Sir, in increment and decrement part, if we instead of var, if we give val, will it give an error or it'll change?
Yeah, so we can try it out. If we give val, it says val cannot be reassigned. So I'm trying to increment val, and then it's saying no, you can't because it's a constant. So any type of change you're trying to do to the constant, it'll give this error.
Okay, sir.
Any questions? Because this part, if you are new to this, it can be difficult. So if you have any kind of clarifications, you can ask now. Okay, guessing. Right, so we can go back. Yeah, now we have strings. Strings are very important. So you have what they are is basically sentences. So like you can think of them as a group of characters. So characters are letters, and then group of letters form a sentence. And yeah, so you can similar to other data types, you can define strings. So val s1, this will be like a constant string, you can't change it. And yeah, so this will be constant throughout, and you can use var as well for strings to have variable strings as well. So that works as well. Yeah, so these are the different ways to initialize strings. And next thing, we have string templates. A template is you can use that string templates to format the way you display things. So that's very important part, like because if you want to display a specific variable and along with a string, then you have to use display formatting, and that is what string templates allows you to do. So I'll give you a demonstration to clarify what I mean by this. Okay, so yeah, so we have like the basic hello world. So if I want to print a string, this is how I would do it. And I have a string defined S. This is how I would define a string. So, and if you want to explicitly state that it's a string type, then you can put the colon and then put string. This will also, this will say that it's a string. So, ST. Yeah. So this is one way to do it, or you can directly do it where the compiler knows like, okay, compiler can understand this is a string from the initialization itself. And yeah, so that's the output. Yeah, what this is saying is variable st is assigned but never accessed. So I didn't use this anywhere. So it's just telling me, okay, you haven't used it anywhere. So yeah, it's just warning me about that. This is a warning. If before when we made an error, it showed a red signal. So that means it's an error. The yellow one is a warning. So warnings, it'll let you run the program, but then it's just pointing out what it thinks. Okay. And so we have the main use of this string display formatting is you can display various things. So here I have a variable, integer variable type I, and I want to say like I is 50. So I colon 50 that I can use do with this. And there are two ways of doing it. One way is I can concatenate I with this string. So I is an integer and it concatenates with this string and it gives I 50. Or a simpler way to do it is just I colon and then there's this dollar sign. And what the dollar sign does is it lets the compiler know this is not a like a string. This is you don't want to do this. You just want to show like the variable I. So yeah, it's to specify this I is not a character, but it's a variable. So when you do something dollar something, it shows like, so instead of I dollar I 50 gets printed out. So I 50, that's the way to put it. And the advantage of this is like if you want certain different things, so I is 50 like age, and then want uh, so yeah, this gives this would be how you would integrate like this value within like the output. So I 50, I represent age 50 is a value like and doing this is very clunky, like you have to keep putting plus and then like closing the semicolon, and instead of doing all that you can just use like the dollar symbol. So that's like the utility of having the dollar symbol. And here I'll be like, we can check how we can do like simple operations just while printing it. So if I want to do I plus 5, I can do I plus 5. But then if I just do this blindly, what happens is I is 50 and then it gets attached to it like it would in a string. So it gets concatenated. So here you can see the output I plus 5 is 505, which is obviously it's not correct. It's not what I want. So the way to get around this, one thing you could do is you could put back brackets around. So here we see like if 5 gets added to 50, it becomes 55, and then that gets outputted. So here you can see 55 gets outputted. And if you don't want to do this, you can still use the dollar symbol and put curly brackets. So if you put dollar symbol, curly brackets, and then here you can do like different operations. If I do I plus 6, it's 56. I plus 5, plus 6. is I plus 6, 56. Yeah. So here I can add do different operations inside of curly brackets. And here another example of that is length of the string. So I have declared a string s hello, and I can find its length within this curly bracket. So I'm doing this operation within this curly bracket. So here, this part, what it gives me is this 5. So this displays like the length of hello. Yeah, so that's different ways you can do formatting within the string, and this is really helpful because like you can go to all of these places. Like you can see, like I have defined everything, and if I run this program, okay. I have all these numbers and I don't know what they are. So while explaining, like I have to look at each line and where what is. So instead of doing all that, I can like easily say it with strings, like what they are. So this I value, and then to put the value, I put the dollar symbol and put I. So this will give, like in the first line, it will give I value 3. So and here I can do that similar C value. Yeah, so that would be the use case for this. Have any doubts regarding this, how it works? Feel free.
In the string, we had something like a bar and slash n, right? What does that mean? Slash n.
Okay. So I guess yeah. So usually slash n represents a new line character. So if I want to say put the world part in the next line, I want to say hello and then world in the next line. So I would put slash. This is a forward slash n. And if I put this, what it does is it goes to the next line. So hello, and then there's a space here. So that space came here. I get to the next line. So this is like a special character that represents a new line. So yeah, that's bar slash n. And clear. Any
Sir, in that, yeah, print after var I is equal to 50, print ln. How, I mean, instead of plus, can we use dollar? Like, how do you use dollar in this sentence?
Okay, yeah. So here, instead of doing plus, everywhere I do plus I plus, I can replace it with $I. So that's the same thing. So I can represent age I. So here plus I plus, I'm replacing with $. So instead of concatenating I to the string, instead of like adding it to the string, I'm just putting $I, and the compiler knows, okay, I'm referring to this variable I. So is a value, if I type I should get the same output. I50
Oh.
I represent.
Yeah, okay, sir. Okay, got it.
Any other doubt?
Curly bracket uses in that string.
Okay. Here, see, here when I was concatenating using plus, I can use put brackets around I plus 5, and that does the operation I plus 5. So I is a variable which has 50, and it adds to 50 and it outputs that. If I want to do the similar thing using $, I'll put that in curly brackets. So if I don't put it, it'll just do I value 50 plus 6. It wouldn't know that you have to add 6 to I and then display the output. It just what it will display is I plus 6 is 50 plus 6. It'll display this.
So what if we keep a bracket instead of curly, normal bracket on brackets?
So the thing is, it doesn't know that I is a variable. So to let it know that I is a variable and we need to add 6 to I, we use curly brackets. That's just like, so on this. So here test I plus 6 is 56. So it knows that I is a variable and I have to add 6 to I and then display its output. So that's what this does.
Okay.
I have a doubt.
Yeah.
When we are concatenating the variable I with the string, there is no need to convert the variable I explicitly to a string. Will it just understand, or?
Yeah. So we don't have to explicitly convert anything to string or anything. It's just the compiler just knows that, you know, what we're trying to do is like concatenation. So that's one of the you can do that, and the compiler is not very smart about it. So here we say here the error was in this line. If I say this line, check this line, I plus 5 is 505. So it concatenates as in like it just joins them together. It doesn't know that we should add 5 to I. So that's one of the issues if you're doing this way, like the compiler decides what it has to do and it just does that. So it treats I as if it's a string and then 5 it's a string and then concatenates everything and you get 505. So here if we put brackets, what it does is I gets added to 5 as if they both are integers. So normal addition takes place. Then the output is treated like a string and concatenated.
Okay, thank you.
Can we use a single quote for defining a string?
No, we need to use double quotes. Single quotes is for characters. See, it says empty character literal. So if you want to do this, this is fine because H is a character. So it's just one character. If I add too many characters in HA, if I just do A, that's fine because it's just one letter. Yeah. Here, what happened? See, this is a character and it's saying an error, unresolved reference length. So this is interesting because we made this a character now because we are putting in single quotes. So S is treated as a character, as in like one letter, and we are trying to do S dot length. That doesn't make sense because, you know, characters don't have length, only strings have length. So it's giving this error. So if we turn this back into a string, that's even one letter can be treated as a string. So then this issue goes away because now it's just a string with one letter. Before it was a character, and so that issue is gone. Yeah, so to summarize, like it was a good question. Like if you use one, so like instead of double quotes, we use single quotes. S is treated as a character. If you use double quotes, it's treated as a string.
Yeah, I have a doubt. Like if we write where I equal to 50, so do we need to define I equal to integer, or it will automatically like understand?
Yeah, so here I'm doing var I equals 50 and I'm not telling the compiler I is integer or anything, and the compiler automatically knows. But then if I just do var I and then do I equals to 50 in the next line, then so if I do this, then they are saying, okay, the compiler doesn't know what I is. It doesn't know like what type it is. So then I'll have to like mention which, if it's an integer or what type it is. So if you're okay, integer does not conform to type integer. Instead, okay, just try int. Okay, yeah. So it's just int. You don't have to use integer. Okay. Yeah. So what it did there was before, if we don't tell it what type it is, then it causes an error. But then now, if we tell what type it is, it's fine. Or you can just initialize directly. Then compiler knows, okay, 50 is an integer, so I must be an integer. Yeah. Have I cleared it? Any other doubt?
Senior, what is that difference between int and integer?
Yeah, okay. So usually, like if you are defining int, we would just use int. So integer is like it's like it's see, like Kotlin and Java are interoperable. So like you can use Kotlin stuff in Java, and you can easily like convert between these two. And in Java, integer is like a wrapper class for the integer data type. So it's different. So that's why when I try to do an integer I equal to 50, it's telling me like does not come for this is not what it's expecting. So this is like basically like an integer class, and I'm trying to assign 50 to it. And so here it's saying like we should use Kotlin int instead of integer.
Thank you.
Sir, what would be the value if it is integer?
Integer. No, int just stands for integer. Like we wouldn't use integer, like that was a mistake.
Okay. Yeah.
Kotlin is case sensitive, or is it?
Yeah. So if you're typing like commands like println, that would be causing issues, because you have to like the commands are case sensitive. Yeah. So it is case sensitive. Yeah.
For the declaring data types used for the string capital S.
Yeah. Yeah, that's you have to use capital S. If you use small s, it will show error. So the data types you have capital L, string, int, the float, double, everything should be capital first letter, and then another point that you make is like if you want to here, if I do this find I plus 5 represent age value here, $I, the it gets converted into like the variable. So I is considered as a variable. If you just want to print $I, then put symbol here, then it will give you $I. So it's not considered as a variable, it's considered as $I. So slash makes this dollar just like a character instead of like a specific thing that converts I into integer value. So, yeah. Any other doubts? Any other ones? These are like the basics. So if you are thorough with this, it will help you learn the others much easier. You can like know what is happening and why we are doing what we're doing. So yeah, this part, if you are very thorough.
How can we get input from the user?
Yeah, so here Ellen. Okay, I have to check that out. Usually during Android development, you wouldn't get the, you would have like a text input, and so you wouldn't do input Kotlin. Yeah, so you have like read line statements which you can use. You can try it out here and the playground. So you can get like strings using read line, and then get I'm not very sure, because usually here they like got a string and then they converted to like integer. They got an integer by like reading the line and converting it to integer. So they read a string and then they convert it into integer. And user and yeah, and check and tell. Okay. Thing is, usually while developing Android apps, we don't get user input from the console. We have usually like a text input box. Something to get the input.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so I guess we'll go back to the yeah, so we can summarize the session. Like, so we have gone through an introduction to the study jam and insight into app development, Android and Kotlin. We have explored Kotlin, like the operators, data types and string types of Kotlin. And yeah, so we have different pathways which you can refer. So to practice all of this, there's a link to like lesson 1 of Kotlin. This is where this is the where you get like your badges and stuff by completing these pathways and lessons. And here we can get started by, this is like the first lesson that you'll be doing, and it will walk you through the steps to install like the offline environment like JDK, Java Development Kit. And here you can, it gives you all the instructions, so you can download the JDK here. There's a link to download JDK. You can choose your whichever system you're having, and then you can download the installer and then install the JDK into your system. And yeah, after installing, if you're using Windows, there's like a specific step where you have to add the path environment variable. So you have to set the path to the folder where you install the JDK, and so during the installation time, you can choose a folder where you want to choose, and if you use the default, this will be the default. So you can copy paste this into like the environment variable, which yeah, you can just follow these steps, and you can install this JDK. After that, you have to install the IDE, which is IntelliJ IDE, and you have the links to it, and then it's pretty simple. You download it from there. They have the community edition, which is free. You can download this, and yeah, and so, and then you can have this. Once you downloaded the IDE, you can have like an environment where you can run your code. Like, so we have seen like hello world, all of these code, you can run it there. That will be like this environment. So it will be similar to this print hello world. Once you download the IDE, you can get this, and yeah. So that's pretty much it. All these links and resources will be uploaded. You can follow through. It will take some time to download all of this and set it up. So yeah, be patient and just walk through it. If you have any doubts, you can ask, contact us, message us. We'll be happy to help you.
Sir?
Yes, sir.
I have VS Code, so do I need to install the IDE or should I just download the Java Xboom?
You would want IntelliJ to run like Android Studio anyway. So I recommend you download this because you will be running Android Studio and everything off of here, and it's pretty simple. So if you're doing that, I would recommend you do this because for Android development and everything, you will be using IntelliJ IDE. Yeah.
Sir, will online
yes.
compiler work?
Huh? Sorry?
Sir, will an online compiler work instead of this IDE?
You can try out your codes in the online compiler, but it's better, as I said, it's better to install this because this is just Kotlin. Like we have explored Kotlin, and we're doing this to learn Android and Android development. And if you want to do Android development, you have to use like Android Studio, and so these installations are necessary. So you can play around in online environment, like even in this, I'll give you like a link to Playground. So if you go to Google and write Kotlin Playground, you can play around in Kotlin. Yeah. And they have all their like all the resources. Like this is the Kotlin official website, so they have their documentation. If you have any doubt, you can go through like and learn more about Kotlin here. And yeah, so you can use the online one to look around and play, but then you for yeah, for doing Android development, you will have to use the IDE.
So VS Code, in the VS Code, we can't code Kotlin.
In VS Code, if you, I think, yeah, if you install the runs on JDK, I think you can, I think, if you download extension, perhaps, yeah, I'm not sure though. You have to try it out. So, any other doubts? We have like provided additional information for the website, and then learn Kotlin by example. This is a very useful website where you can they'll show you they'll explain with examples. So whatever they're teaching, like functions, variables. So if you have time, if you want, you can go through all of this. And there are like many
Sir,
different. Yes.
sir, I have already installed like Android Studio, sir. So do I need to install this?
You will have the IntelliJ ID, right? This will be your ID. It's similar to this, right? If you're installed Android Studio.
Yeah, sir.
Yeah, so you have you can just use on that. Like if you create a new project, you can create new project and click Kotlin here, and inside that you can like use like JDK version if you set, and then create like a console application. You can use it to just play around in Kotlin itself instead of making an Android project. So that will be fine. You don't have to install IntelliJ ID. You have it already installed.
Sir, is there any WhatsApp group for the given resources?
Just you're there in the
Actually, yeah, about that, we will be sharing all the relevant resources on our Discord server. So I suggest you join there. There are no WhatsApp groups.
Okay, okay.
Sir, I actually joined late. Can you explain in short why we code in Kotlin, why Kotlin is good?
Okay. Yeah, so basically, I'll show you like one slide. This is, you can use Java for Android development. You can also use Kotlin. And this left side is a code for a class in Java. And you can basically represent this entire class in one line in Kotlin. So that's how like concise and efficient it is. So yeah, that's why like Kotlin is much more preferred now than Java. And it has a lot of other benefits. Like it's much safer to code in. It gives much less errors and it lets you debug much faster. And if you use Java, you'll have like null pointer exceptions, all of these. So null safety is not a thing in Java, but in Kotlin, all of that is like done for you. So it's much more modern, better language.
Okay, sir.
Any other?
Sir?
Yes.
Can the IDE be installed on a VM, or is it better to use the host?
It depends on your system, but I would say it's better to do it in the host because this system it's kind of intensive, so it takes time to load and everything. All of this kind of takes time, so unless you have a very powerful system, I would say like it's better to have it in the host. So if you're using Linux or some other things, I think all of those have their own like you can use for them you can use their own like versions. So I would recommend you do it on the host itself.
Okay, thank you.
Guys, if you have any more following questions or any other things you want to inquire about, join the Discord server and put your inquiries or questions or queries there. Our team would be happy to help you with whatever questions you guys have. And Kirtana has an announcement to make.
Yep. So, okay, first, thank you guys for joining in. And we will be sharing the PPT, the resources, and the link for the challenges by Google as well. You guys can get started. There are different pathways that you can choose. This session was to help you get started. And yeah, this week you can look into all of that. I think that concludes the session for today. Thank you guys for joining in. That's all. Rakesh, do you have anything to add?
More details regarding the opportunity she has mentioned will be put on the Discord server and our social media pages. Check them for more updates, and you the next session updates also will be coming to you guys through mail and also social media handles. So, but make sure you guys check the Discord server time to time so that you guys are updated with whatever is happening.
That's done. All right, guys. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.